field of occupational safety and health. We hope that everyone is safe and healthy. Kami po dito sa Philippine College of Occupational Safety and kami po dito sa Philippine College of Occupational Medicine Quezon City Chapter ay nagagalak na nabigyan nyo kami ng inyong oras para makinig at matuto sa discussions natin ngayong gabi. To our regulars, welcome back. And sa mga first-timers, welcome to our Kapihang OH. Ako po ang inyong host and moderator for today, Dr. Jason John Cabigon, a member of the board of the PCOM Quezon City Chapter. We know that you are here today because you are familiar with the Republic Act number 11508 and the Department Order number 198-18, making safety trainings compulsory. So pwede ba tayo mag-train kung saan-saan, and will our certificates be acceptable in compliance to that RA and DO? So let's all learn together tonight as we will have an orientation on DOLE Department Order 235-22. To welcome us all sa ating 40th Kapihang OH, ladies and gentlemen, our PCOM Quezon City Chapter President, Dr. Catherine Artais Carriaga.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Cabigon. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat na aming tagapanood at tagapagsubaybay mula sa iba't ibang panig ng Pilipinas at sa labas ng bansa. Sa aming kapamilya sa Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, mga kapuso sa Occupational Safety and Health at mga kapatid sa propesyon ng kalusugan. Isang mainit na pagtanggap mula po sa amin na bumubuo ng PCOM Quezon City Chapter. Sa mga nakalipas na buwan, dahil sa pagluwag na restriksyon sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa, unti-unti nang nagbabalik ang sigla ng iba't ibang aspeto sa ating lipunan. Marami nang ang mga establishmento, pagawaan at industriya ang nanumbalik na sa normal. Kaya naman ang ating kagawaran ng kalusugan at kagawaran ng paggawa ay patuloy na lumilikha at nagpapatupad ng mga polisiya at pamantayan upang pagtibayan ang tamang mga protokol at panuntunan para sa kaligtasan di lamang ng mga manggagawa, bagkus para sa lahat ng mamamayang Pilipino. Kaya po ngayong gabi sa ating virtual na pagtitipon-tipon, kami ay lubos na nalulugod dahil kasama po natin ang eksperto sa larangan na ito sa ating ika-40 kapihan para talakayin na orientation on DOLE Department Order 235-22. Tara po, tayo ay sabay-sabay na makinig at matuto ngayong gabi. Maraming salamat po at isang magandang gabi po muli sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Dr. Carriaga. To our dearest colleagues and beloved guests from all sectors of the workforce, that chapter is very honored to introduce our respected speaker for tonight. Our speaker is well known to all of us, one of the most respected names in our field. Our resource person for this evening is no other than the Division Chief 3 of the Health Control Division of the Occupational Safety and Health Center. Let us all welcome Dr. Maria Beatriz Villanueva.
Maraming salamat, Jason, for the introduction. First of all, I would like to thank PCOM Quezon City Chapter for inviting the Occupational Safety and Health Center to provide this orientation on Department Order 235-22. It is our honor to, of course, introduce this to the members of PCOM and as well as to all the other participants coming from the workforce. This, I guess, a very new issuance from the Department of Labor, and we are just starting to roll this out to the private sector. So I hope everybody would raise their concerns regarding the department order, and we hope we can clarify the issues related to the department order. Before I start, of course, I would like to thank the presence of the BWC colleagues who will be here assisting us during this orientation. So can I be allowed to share my slide?
Go ahead po, Doc Dia.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I hope everybody can see my slides. So this is Department Order number 235 series of 2022 on the rules on the certification of first aiders and the accreditation of first aid training providers. So I've mentioned this is quite new, and I guess you are the first organization outside of DOLE to receive the orientation. What's the rationale behind this? So everybody knows that the standards, the Occupational Safety and Health standards, our yellow book has been around for a long time already. And in Rule 1964, the first aider has been defined to be a person who has underwent training and is certified by the Philippine National Red Cross or any other organization accredited by the Red Cross. But you know, and this has been introduced by Dr. Cabigon, with the enactment of Republic Act 11058 and as well as its IRR Department Order 198-18, the context of what a first aider is has changed already with regards the training organization that will be providing first aid sa mga ating mga first aider. So at this point, it has been expanded, the pool of trainers is expanded, not only the Philippine Red Cross right now, but also any other organization authorized by the Secretary of Labor. And in 2019, Labor Advisory 10-19 also expanded again. Those are recognized to be first aid training providers before the department order was issued. So we recognize those trained by the Department of Health, the Bureau of Fire Protection, and those training centers or technical vocational institutes that has the EMS NC2 or the Emergency Medical Services NC2 training program registered with TESDA. So in-expand na siya, labor advisory pa lang. So bakit nga ba kailangan pa ng meron tayong department order? We need to institutionalize the labor advisory. And of course, apart from that, we need to establish a system to ensure the quality of training. And in so doing, we are expecting with the issuance of the department order an increase in the number of training providers. And of course, one of the changes also in the first aid training course is the consideration of the risk level, classification, and number of workers. So there are iterations already in the first aid training course. So before it was just the standard first aid training course that first aiders in the workplace need to undergo, but at this with the issuance of the department order, may iteration na siya, taking into consideration, as I've mentioned, the risk level and the number of workers. So the events leading to the development of Department Order 235 now, and I would like to walk you through the process now of developing this department order. Of course, initially we had the stakeholder discussions and consultations involving DOLE, basically the Occupational Safety and Health and the Bureau of Working Conditions, together with the DOH, HEMB, the Health Emergency Management Bureau, the Bureau of Fire Protection, TESDA, the Office of Civil Defense, and the Philippine Red Cross. And as we were developing the draft, of course, there were we are making ourselves a sounding boards rin, within the DOLE, so that we are able to integrate into the draft existing practice as well as consideration of certain limitation in resources. And after the draft has been finalized, binigay na namin to sa Bureau of Labor Relations na kung saan yung tripartite executive committee ay tinignan itong draft na to. So there were several presentations made with the TEC. Of course, the tripartite executive committee is made up of our employers and workers organization representatives. And after it has passed the TEC, it went up to the National Tripartite Industrial Peace Council. So ganun yung naging development noong department order. So it's not like it just came from the Occupational Safety and Health Center or just with DOLE, but it has undergone consultation and scrutiny by the tripartite partners as well, apart from experts in the field of first aid. So after it has been given to the tripartite, it was elevated to the Secretary of Labor, endorsed to the Secretary of Labor, and it was signed on May 13. So, ang sabi rito, the effectivity of the rules shall take place 15 calendar days after the publication in a newspaper of general circulation. So, the department order was published on May 21 in the Manila Times. So, if you did not see the Manila Times issue on that day, just trust us. It was published on May 21. Anyway, so just to give you a glance now of what the department order is all about, it is comprised of 4 rules and 27 sections. Rule 1 being the general provisions, Rule 2, certification of first aiders, and Rule 3, which is the longest rule because it has 17 sections. No? This is with regards to accreditation of first aid training providers, and Rule 4, transitory and final provisions. So let's see the details of each of these rules, and of course the corresponding sections under each rule. So Rule 1, as I've mentioned, covers the general provisions, and there are 2 sections, one on coverage and another on the definition of terms. So there are several nomenclatures that were included in the department order, and later on I will be introducing this to you. So quite simply, and of course quite enabling enough, these rules shall apply to the certification of first aiders and the accreditation of first aid training providers. Yun lang naman talaga ang sasaklawin itong department order. At doon sa dating definition of terms, as I have mentioned, there are 12 nomenclatures defined. 4 of these has something to do with the TBI and the process of the training of these TBIs. No? So first, the Accredited Technical Vocational Education and Training Institution, or TVI, refers to public or private institutions truly recognized by TESDA to implement the dualized training system or the dualized training program together with the partner establishment. It just sets the definition of those that have been identified already in the labor advisory. Remember, if you are familiar with the labor advisory, we skip the definition of terms there, but here, because we are institutionalizing that, we needed to define all of this. So another term that was defined is the certificate of accreditation. This only refers to the certificate issued by the Department of Labor to a first aid training provider after satisfactorily passing the accreditation process and evaluation standards. So again, no, yung pumasa na gusto mag-train ng first aid ay bibigyan ng certificate of accreditation, just like in any other accreditation process under the Department of Labor. So the definition of certified first aider is also included in this section. So this refers to any person trained and certified to administer first aid by the Philippine Red Cross, the Department of Health, the Bureau of Fire Protection, TESDA TBIs, and other DOLE accredited first aid training providers. So again, as I've mentioned, we institutionalize the labor advisory provisions as well. Now, we have another term that was defined, DOLE accredited first aid training providers, refers to a training organization in the private sector. Private sector lamang, hindi kami nag-accredit ng public sector, authorized by the Secretary of DOLE to provide first aid training to individuals to become certified first aider based on the requirements of these rules. So nakaka-4 na tayo. 8 to go na lang. So dito, you don't have to memorize this. It's just that it refers to the dualized training program under the TVET program ng TESDA. So ang kasama doon at ang hemplo doon ay yung EMS NC2 na tinatawag natin. na kung saan sa paunang labor advisory, kinilala natin ito kapag nag-graduate ka rito, maaari ka nang italagang first aider. Meron rin isang sistema, ito yung dualized training system, na kung saan it refers to the instructional delivery system of technical vocational education and training, combining in-plant and in-school training based on a training plan designed collaboratively by an accredited dual system educational institution and an accredited dual system participating establishments. So this is something that is part of the accreditation system under the TVET system of TESDA. Now moving along, this time again, we are introducing the first iteration of the first aid training, which is the emergency first aid training, referring to a one-day training course where participants are provided with knowledge on day-to-day emergencies that ordinary people may encounter until full medical treatment is available. So here again, we are defining first aid training, referring to the training course on first aid and basic life support at work with the necessary skills and training competencies as prescribed by DOLE. Don't be daunted by this definition of terms. Anyway, you can refer back to this when you download the department order and the manual of procedures. So I'll just skim over quite quickly. So the manual of procedures, I mentioned this already. This refers to the document issued by DOLE consisting of the administrative and procedural guidelines on certification of first aiders and the accreditation of FATPRO. So the FATPRO is the first aid training provider. This document has been uploaded sa website ng OSH at BWC already, and you can download this. Another iteration of the first aid training is the occupational first aid and basic life support training. This is a 2-day training course. Again, providing competencies and skills to the future, if natapos nung trainee, future first aider, to establish, maintain, and facilitate the provision of effective life support in a workplace environment. So that is the second iteration of the first aid training. Now, this is the third iteration, and this is the only type of training allowed before the department order. And this is the standard first aid and basic life support training. And this is a 4-day training course covering all aspects of first aid and cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Kasama dito yung infants, children, and adults sa mga na-first aid training. Ito yung kinukuha natin dati. TVET, as I've mentioned earlier, and this was part of the definition, yung unang-unang pinalabas kanina, the technical vocational education and training. This is a comprehensive term that includes all education and training processes concerned with, again, technology, science. Kasama na dito yung sinabi ko kanina, yung EMS and C2 registered program. Now, having gone through the definition of terms and having set again things that we need to think about as I go through the department order, let's move on to Rule 3, and this is the certification of first aiders. Uulit-ulitin na namin ito dahil ini-institutionalize natin yung labor advisory at dinadagdagan natin ito. Ang ino-authorize na natin na FATPROs for first aid training certification ay Red Cross, Department of Health, Bureau of Fire Protection. At dito, sinasabi natin, kasama rito yung DOLE accredited TBIs na merong registered sa TESDA na Emergency Medical Service National Certification Program at other DOLE accredited first aid training providers. So kung hindi ka kasama sa ABCD, pwede ka, kung kayo interesado na magpa-accredit, pumasok dun sa E, for as long as matutupad ninyo lahat ng mga reglamentos para kayo ay maging authorized first aid training provider. Now, I've mentioned already the iteration, and I think for those people who are in the workplace, who are point people in the practice of occupational safety and health, this is not new to us because this is the iteration also that we use when we're classifying risk level that has something to do again with how many and the type of competencies of our OSH personnel complement. So in section 2, hinalaw rin ito at isinunod ito doon sa 198 na kung saan ang type of first aid certification training course is now based on the establishment's employment size and risk level. And this, again, is how we were able to identify sino ang pwede mag-emergency first aid training, sino ang occupational first aid training, sino ang standard first aid training. So kung ang employment size mo ay nasa micro ka, 9 and below, at ang risk level mo ay low, medium, high, so ibig sabihin kahit anong risk classification mo at micro ka, emergency first aid training ka. Sa susunod doon, 10 to 50, at risk level mo ay low, occupational first aid and basic life support training ka. At kung hindi ka na-classify doon sa taas, na dalawa, nasa standard first aid and basic life support training. So 10 to 50, when you have risk level classification of medium and high, and or 51 and above, regardless of risk classification, low, medium, and high, kapag medyo tumaas na yung numero ng iyong mga manggagawa, sa standard first aid and basic life support. Also under Rule 2, Certification of First Aiders, dito makikita ninyo ang isa ring pagbabago, and one of the key points of this department order is the extension of the validity of first aid certification from 2 years to 3 years. Dati 2 taon lamang, ngayon haba na ng 3 taon. In Section 4, dito naman, dahil kinikilala natin yung EMS NC2 program na maaaring magmula ang ating mga first aider, kung kayo ay familiar rito, makikita ninyo, isa dito sa mga outcomes nito, ay matapos ka nitong program na ito, pwede ka maging first aider. Dito kinikilala ka. So pwede ka mag-designate at sinasabi rito, an individual holding a certificate of completion of EMS NC2 program may be designated as first aider by an establishment regardless of employment size and risk level, provided that you are a holder of an EMS NC2 certificate, which is valid. The EMS NC2 program of the TVI is registered with TESDA. The TVI is directly conducting the EMS NC2 program. The TVI that conducted the EMS NC program is a DOLE accredited first aid training provider. And of course, the holder must pass the knowledge and skills assessment of AFAT Pro. Kahit na hindi ka ma-assess na NC certificated ka, for as long as ipasa mo yung knowledge and skills assessment mo, pwede ka pa rin maging designated first aider. So dito, kinaklaro namin yung renewal of certification. So all ambiguities and all issues regarding renewal of accreditation doon sa mga STOs, so OSH practitioner and consultants, we took stock of that, and then of course we tried to clarify issues doon para wala ng ambiguity. Dito sinasabi, marirenew ka kung matapos mo yung certification ng renewal training course. So you have to complete the modules on the renewal training course that focus on the core competence, kung ano yung una mong kinuha. Kung halimbawa, emergency ka, first aid training course ang natapos mo dahil yun ang angkop sa lugar ng trabaho mo, at magre-renew ka at doon ka pa rin, magre-renew ka ng certification mo bilang emergency first aider pa rin, at ang module mo ay angkop doon sa type of training. Pwede mo siyang i-file 60 days prior to the expiration of the certificate. And of course, the cost of the recertification or renewal of certification should be shouldered by the employer. And the following are the requirements for renewal. Siyempre, pagka magre-renew ka, valid yung certification. Tapos, siyempre, ipapasa mo pa rin yung assessment na i-administer ng first aid training provider. Ngayon, punta naman tayo sa Rule 3. Ang sabi ko, medyo mahaba ito. Bear with me, there are 17 sections to this rule. So, yung unang-unang section natin, accreditation requirements of first aid training providers. Dito, nilista namin, sinimplify namin yung lista kasi yung detalye nasa Manual of Procedures. Ano yung sinasabi? Dapat i-fill up mo yung application form. Dapat yung documents na hinihingi as sa Manual of Procedures, ipapasa mo, papakita mo na meron ka. Dapat yung training curriculum with corresponding training hours, facilitators and participants manual, on emergency occupational and standard first aid with BLS as prescribed by DOLE ay meron ka kung gusto mo maging first aid training provider. Tapos dito, kailangan ng baseline application ng first aid training provider ay standard first aid. Anong ibig sabihin to? Dapat kaya mo gawa o magpatakbo ng standard first aid training course bago ka masa-certify. Kasi, katulad ng sinabi ko, iterations ng standard first aid training, yung occupational at saka yung emergency. So, from a bigger training course, papayagan ka dahil pagka nakita mo na yung big, pwede mo siyang gawa ng iteration. For TBIs, katulad ng sa labor advisory, kung ikaw ay TBI with registered EMS NC program sa TESDA, kailangan mayroon kang valid certification ng program registration mo for TESDA. And this is, in a sense, recognition of your accreditation already from TESDA. But nonetheless, you have to be under the system of DOLE. So sa section 2, dito lamang rin kinaklaro yung modes of submission. Kasi nga, nagbago na ang mundo at sa pagbabago, nagbabago na rin yung mga paraan para makapagsumiti ka ng application mo. And here, apart from personally submitting the requirements or sending this through a private courier service or through registered mail, tinatanggap rin ang pagsumite ng mga applications through electronic mail. And this should be sent to the official email address of the DOLE as posted on its official website. Later on, I'll be showing you where you could send the requirements. Dahil nagkaroon na rin ng pagkilala habang hindi pa lumalabas yung AO na nagkaroon na kami ng pag-uusap sa Department of Labor na ang Occupational Safety and Health Center ang magiging accrediting body. Section 3, denial of application for accreditation if you submitted falsified or tampered requirements and or incomplete. Siyempre naman ito, pagka incomplete, hindi ka naman ma-accreditan. Pati rin kapag falsified or tampered. And siyempre, failure to observe and perform the terms of accreditation based on the manual of procedures. So your application would be denied. On section 4, these are the content of the first aid certification training course. Pero doon sa manual of procedures, nandun yung detalye na instructional standards nitong training courses na ito. So dito, pinapakita lamang sa isang araw, ito yung inyong sasakupin for emergency first aid training. Introduction to first aid, emergency action principles, cardiac and common emergencies. Again, as I've mentioned, the details are in the manual of procedures, which has been uploaded already to our website as well as the website of Bureau of Working Conditions. The occupational first aid and basic life support training. This is a 2-day training course, and it should cover, apart from what is covered in the emergency first aid, dadagdagan nyo ng lifting and moving of patients. Habang lumahaba ang panahon, dumadami ang topics na ito-cover niya. Kaya pagdating sa standard first aid and basic life support training, 4 days siya. So bukod sa kinover na occupational at saka na emergency, dadagdagan pa ito. Merong cardiac, airway, and breathing emergencies, medical environment emergencies, bleeding and shock injuries, soft tissue injuries, poisoning, head and spine injuries, bone, joints, and muscle injuries, special situations, etc., etc. So, ito yung, of course, kasama yung lifting and moving, but this is part already of the occupation. So, I hope you would appreciate the iteration that I've been referring to earlier with regards to different types of first aid training courses. Now, even the validity of the FATPRO accreditation is also 3 years. This is aligned with the accreditation processes right now of DOLE. So, 3 taon rin naman siya. At syempre, kasama rito, kapag with the validity of the FATPRO accreditation, you are now subject, if you are the FATPRO, you are now subject to observe and perform the responsibilities enumerated in section 13, and I'll be showing you that later on. Now, let's go to section 6, the responsibilities of the accredited first aid training provider. Remember, ang sinabi ko kanina, yung base first aid training course na dapat nagagawa mo ay yung standard first aid and basic life support. Pero para matupad mo yung responsibility mo as an accredited FAT Pro, kailangan makakakompleto ka ng one set of first aid training listed below. So sa 12 months, sa bawat 12 months, di ba yung validity ng iyong accreditation ay 3 taon. No? So kada taon, dapat nakakagawa ka ng at least tig-iisa nung 3 iterations of the training. So I hope this is very clear. No? Dapat 3 ito nagagawa mo sa kada 12 buwan. Kasama rin ito, so sa section 6, no? Maintain the accreditation requirements herein habang meron kang accreditation, such as but not limited to the following or as stated in the Manual of Procedures. May legal requirement to operate the business, dapat may training, management, and staff resources ka. The premises, meron ka kung magpapatraining ka. You have to have clear policies on intellectual property and data protection. Napaka-importante nito, no? Dahil kayo ay training organization, you collect data as well, information of your participants. So we would like to see these policies, no, on how you'll be securing the data of your participants as well as adhering to the intellectual property, no, na hindi mo lamang kinopya sa iba, hindi mo lamang ginaya ng walang pahintulot ang mga ginagamit mong mga materyales kapag nagtitraining ka. Of course, yung course delivery nyo, dapat kasama na ito doon sa accreditation requirements, no? That you have to maintain quality assurance and enhancement, marketing and recruitment of trainees. Now, later on, I will be introducing certain provisions now related to marketing and recruitment of trainees, which again is a lesson that we have learned with the accreditation of STOs. Implement the training according to the course description. This is again kasama doon sa ating section 6. Pagka dumalaw yung evaluation team, dapat hahayaan no at i-welcome nyo sila mag-conduct ng ocular inspection at mag-observe ng training. Kung sakasakaling sasabihin ninyo hindi pa pwede at hindi kayo you cannot be present during the time of the inspection or you are not allowing us to observe, of course, that is under very, very siguro justifiable reasons. But in terms of schedule, proof of conflicting activity ang kailangan. Conduct their training in accordance or within the scope and coverage of their accreditation. This is again very, very important. Kung binigyan ka ng accreditation as FAT Pro, remember the coverage that I have mentioned, yun lamang iimbulong, iikot ang iyong gagawin. Kung doon ka labang na-accredit. Of course, assess the skills and knowledge of individuals. Kung ikaw ay TVI, for a reasonable fee, comply with the provisions of the standards in D198 dahil ikaw rin ay meron namang mga kasama at unit ka pa rin, no, na masasaklawan ng mga standards at saka 198, dapat tumutupad ka sa mga provision nito. Kung meron mang hihingin ng mga ibang dokumento na kailangan, isasumitin nyo, ito napaka-importante. Not transfer, assign, or grant in any manner the use of its rights and obligations in whole or in part to another or third party. Hindi pa pwede yung kagamitin lamang yung pangalan mo pero hindi ikaw yung magti-training. Dahil ito ay isa na rin hindi pinapahintulutan ito at napakaklaro ito. Dito sa Section 6, Rule 3 ng Department Order. So your renewal of certificate of accreditation, you can file this within 60 days before its expiration. In case of inaction within 30 working days from the submission of the complete requirements for renewal. Ito in-underline ko, dapat kompleto yung requirements ninyo na isusumite. Dahil yung inaction is only valid kapag nakompleto na. Dahil kapag hindi pa kompleto at hinihingi pa namin sa inyo, ibig sabihin, kami ang naghihintay sa inyo, yung burden na sa inyo. The validity of the certificate of accreditation shall be deemed extended until resolution of the application. However, no extension shall be deemed granted under the preceding paragraph if the application for renewal was filed less than 30 working days before the expiration of its certificate of accreditation. It shall be suspended upon expiration and subject to automatic lifting upon the issuance of the new certificate of accreditation. So dito napakaklaro. Kapag hindi ka na-renew, bago mag-expire, isususpend ka muna at tatanggalin ka sa listahan ng mga accredited fat pros. Section 8, katulad sinabi ko, if you're familiar with the accreditation system, the list of accredited individuals as well as organizations is uploaded in the website of the Occupational Safety and Health. So likewise, the list of the first aid training providers will be uploaded in the website. Section 9, katulad ng mga audit system, dito rin as part of the quality assurance, i-monitor ang accredited fat pro. If you are part of the training organizations accredited, you are being audited rin. There are reports that should be submitted and there are certain things that you should observe para yung accreditation will be maintained. Shall upon observance of due process suspend or cancel the accreditation or permanently prohibit the application of a non-compliant or erring fat pro. So dito napakaklaro na yung monitoring system ay dapat mapatupad at masunod. Here are some more sections. As I've said, there are 17 sections under Rule 3. Section 10, grounds for suspension of certificate of accreditation. The following are grounds for suspension of certificate of accreditation. Remember, I mentioned earlier that within 12 months, dapat makapag-train o makapag-conduct ng one set of first aid training courses. Ano? Kapag hindi mo nagawa yun, it may be a ground for suspension of certificate of accreditation. Halimbawa, ayaw mo kami papasukin to conduct the ocular inspection or kaya you refuse us to observe the training, then it can be a ground for suspension, later submission of reports as prescribed by DOLE, complaints to the fat pros training conduct. Ito, napaka-importante kasi ito lagi namin kino-call out ang mga safety training organizations na ginagamit ang logo na Occupational Safety and Health or logo ng DOLE. Lagi namin sinasabi, hindi organization ito, hindi nyo dapat gamitin ang aming logo. Katulad rin nito, dito ini-emphasize the use of the government and other agencies' logos in their training slides without permission and false advertisement and publicity in all forms of media. Before the department order was issued, of course, there's an interim between the DOLE advisory and the department order. During that time, marami kami nakikita na nagpapa-advertise na hindi naman sila TVI or hindi sila DOH or hindi sila Bureau of Fire Protection or hindi sila Red Cross. So meron na rin kaming mga na-call out dahil. Section 11, grounds for cancellation of certificate of accreditation or permanent prohibition from applying for accreditation. The following are grounds for cancellation and permanent disqualification. 2 consecutive suspension of accreditation regardless of the grounds thereof, you can be canceled. Misrepresentation or concealment of relevant information in the application, fraudulent activities by the person or company. Ito na naman. Transfer, assignment, or grant in any manner the use of its rights and or obligations in whole or in part to another or third party, or violation or aiding and abetting of the violation that is deemed to be intentional or associated with fraud. So these are grounds for cancellation or suspension. So of course, because there is due process, there is a preliminary notice that will be provided to the accredited fat pro for corrective action, and these are the things that will be served to the fat pro, statement of the audit observation of DOLE, recommendation of the audit officer for suspension or cancellation, or for permanent prohibition from applying for accreditation, and of course, corrective actions that may be undertaken by the fat pro. Kasama po yon sa mga matatanggap sa preliminary notice. Kasama pa rin dito an instruction that the fat pro has a non-extendable 15 calendar days from the receipt of the preliminary notice to submit to the Department of Labor the following. So there are 3. Report ninyo. Kaya yung sasabihin nyo na hindi naman yung audit observation ay maaaring hindi tama or natama na ninyo. Tapos yung chronologically, you have to provide us proof that there are corrective actions undertaken. And then supporting documents rebutting the allegations and or compliance with the required corrective actions. And a statement that all matters alleged in the audit observation shall be deemed admitted in case hindi naman kayo nag-submit ng reply. So kapag tumahimik na kayo at lumampas na yung numero ng araw na tinatalaga, ay deemed admitted na niyo na meron nga ganitong mga observations. The operation of any FATPRO, again, this is something that is very clear, no? That has been served with preliminary notice of suspension or cancellation of certificate of accreditation or permanent prohibition from applying for accreditation shall be suspended until satisfactory compliance with the requirements of its accreditation. Section 13, the final notice of suspension or cancellation of certificate of accreditation or permanent prohibition. Now, upon failure of the FATPRO to comply within 15 days, upon its receipt of the preliminary notice, the DOLE shall cancel the certificate. If it has been determined that unwilling or unable na makorrect yung findings in the audit observation, you have been engaged in fraudulent activities to obtain or continue its accreditation with DOLE and found to be non-compliant for more than once on the same. So yung DOLE mag-i-issue naman ng final notice in writing of the suspension or cancellation of the certificate of accreditation or prohibition, permanent prohibition from applying for accreditation. Again, now we're using different modes of delivering this final notice, whether personally, registered mail, or electronic. The status of the FATPRO, again, dahil naka-upload ka, pagka in-update namin, tatanggalin ito doon sa lista kapag ikaw ay na-cancel or na-suspend. The aggrieved FATPRO may submit a written request for reconsideration to DOLE within 10 days, 10 calendar days from receipt of the final notice. And of course, you can still appeal to the Secretary of Labor. The aggrieved FATPRO may appeal the adverse resolution to the Office of the Secretary of DOLE within 15 calendar days from the receipt of the resolution on its request for reconsideration. The resolution shall be deemed final and executory if no appeal is timely. So dito, timeliness of filing is very important. The decision of the Secretary shall be final and executory. Again, you will be duly notified personally, by registered mail, or by electronic. If the appeal is granted, again, i-re-restore yung validity at may ilalagay ka na ulit sa website. So, tatanggalin ka kapag suspended ka o kaya na-cancel ka na, ibabalik ka kapag na-restore na ito. Okay, two more for Rule 3. Certification issued by the FATPRO with suspended or canceled certificate of accreditation. This is very, very clear. Any certification issued by FATPRO with suspended or canceled certificate of accreditation shall not be recognized. So be careful, when engaging FATPROs, those who are accredited, kindly make sure that the accreditation is valid. Again, the list will be uploaded in the website. And last, in the accreditation, in Rule 3, accreditation fees, the DOLE shall determine the applicable fees. Again, this is in the MOP already, that shall be charged to the training providers applying for accreditation. Fees collected or non-refundable applicable fees shall be posted in conspicuous areas. In-upload na po namin sa website kasama ito ng Manual of Procedure. So makikita din nyo mamaya kung magkano yung accreditation fees. So now we go to the last rule. Ito yung transitory rules. So the repealing clause, all issued orders, rules, and regulations, guidelines, and other policies or parts thereof which are contrary to or inconsistent with these rules are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. So ito yung sinasabi, may repealing clause siya, at meron rin siyang separability clause. Kung sakasakali man may provisions dito na sinabi ay hindi valid, illegal, or hindi dapat i-enforce, kung meron mga provisions dito na valid, yun pa rin ay hindi maapektuhan because of the separability clause. So the effectivity, again, took place already because this was published on May 21, so it became effective last June 6. Tama po ba? June 6, 2020. So that, the presentation on the DO. But because I have made mention of the Manual of Procedures, let me skim through the Manual of Procedures. Again, this is quite a long document. You can download this document from our website. So ano ba yung kasama dito sa Manual of Procedures? No? Ito yung table of contents namin. Forward, ito ay ini-issue ng dalawang ahensya. No? Ini-issue to ng Occupational Safety and Health Center at ng Bureau of Working Conditions. Kung saan makikita niyo ang pirma ng Assistant Secretary, no, o QECO, at ng aming Executive Director naman si. There are general instructions. As I've mentioned, the instructional designs, I've mentioned certain topics on the minimum requirements for the different iterations of the first aid training courses, initially in the department order. But in this manual of procedures, you will see the instructional designs for the different types of first aid training courses, the requirements for CPR mannequin, guidelines on decontamination of training equipment, schedule of fees, and in the annexes are, if you are interested, nandun yung application form, yung checklist for new and renewal, sample certificates, and identification of the cars. And of course, as part of the manual of procedures, nandun rin yung department. So, dahil ito yung two types of first aid training courses, makikita nyo doon ang instructional guidelines for these three types of training courses. Ito yung schedule of fees. Now, we have based this also on DOLE DO number 16, yun doon sa procedural guidelines ng accreditation ng OSH practitioner, consultants, and safety training organization. So ito, hindi binago. Pareho pa rin ito doon sa training, sa first aid, sa accreditation fee. Pero dito, in-emphasize natin, training fees for participants, first aiders are to be determined by the respective accredited FATPRO, no? Pero later on, because I'll be showing you the certificates of completion and samples of the ID, yung mga identification cards, ang sinasabi namin dito na sa manual of procedures rin ito, hindi nyo dapat charge ulit pa ang mga participants para doon sa certificate nila at sa ID nila. Dapat yun ay kasama na doon sa training fee. So, this was already reflected, no, in the department order, but the details will be in the manual of procedures for the new first aid training provider applicants as well as for the renewal. Now, this is an example of the information in the sample certificates. Now, the certificate of completion is given to the participants. Of course, the name should appear, and those who attended only and participated, no, in 100% of the course. Dapat natapos nila, nagkaroon sila ng tamang skills, no, expected skills, and should have passed, no. Ang minimum passing dito ay 75% for the written knowledge evaluation. The certificate must reflect the following: the name, the address of the training provider, its DOLE accreditation number, which is a unique number given to organizations that has been provided, that have been accredited by the Department of Labor, as well as the validity non-date. Meron doon dapat itrato yung training participant at dapat nakalagay rin ang titulo ng kurso. Remember, 3 yung tipo ng kurso natin sa first aid, dapat doon nag-appear yun. Tapos meron siyang lagda ng training organization head and instructor. Tapos yung certificates rin, paulit-ulit namin sinasabi kasi dito rin, no, lesson learned rin with the accreditation of organizations, no. The issue of certificates and ID should be free and should be included in the training fee. Should reflect the 3-year certification program and be issued on the day of the completion. Not permitted to post it. Hindi to check, hindi pwedeng post-dated ang certificate kahit na sabihin nyo matatapos naman. Hindi po ito pinapahintulutan at dapat ma-reflect yung name of instructor. Napaka-importante kasi yung instructor rin, tinitingnan rin namin yung qualifications dito. Dahil we have now to validate this as well with Red Cross. Dalawa lang naman yung nagbibigay nito, Red Cross, at saka may training qualifications trend, yung mga TVIs na merong EMS and CT courses registered with TESTA. So this is an example now of the certificate of completion for emergency first aid training. Again, the logo of the company lamang or the organization, the logo of DOLE should not appear for occupational first aid. Pero pareho lang naman po, nagbago lamang yung type of training. Ito yung filing ng application. This is essentially the process. No? Siyempre, you fill up the application documents prescribed. You communicate this to the office of our executive director, and our accreditation email is osh1987.accreditation@gmail.com. So doon nyo pwedeng ipadala. Kung i-email nyo ito, application requirements will be reviewed by the accreditation team, and then after evaluating, and if you would be deemed or recognized to be or recommended to be accredited, then we will transmit the recommendation to the Office of the Executive Director for final disposition. Quite like how the accreditation system is being implemented right now. So those are the broad strokes on how the process should go. So again, just to remind you, where can you see the manual of procedures? You can download this from the website of the OSHC and the BWC. So I guess that is my last slide. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Villanueva. So talagang very clear po no ang inyong discussion and presentation. In fact, sobrang dami na pong questions sa chat na na-answer niyo na po no with your presentations. And to be the first institution outside DOLE to receive this orientation, we really feel privileged po. So thank you very much po. And with the help, in fact, of Dr. Villanueva, we have experts from the Bureau of Working Conditions with us tonight. So we will highly appreciate inputs from them as well. So at this juncture, let's officially start our open forum. Okay, so Doc Dia, is it okay if you will be receiving the first question?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So actually, sobrang dami na pong questions po talaga, Doc Dia, no? But after organizing the questions, we saw that we can group the questions into two main categories. So the first category will be about individual certification. Dito po ang daming tanong talaga. And the second category will be about company implementation and even provider accreditation. So we will start po with the individual certification category. So first, Doc, marami pong nagtatanong, what if daw po, if the first aider still has a valid certificate prior to the implementation of this DO, will that still be valid daw po ba? Or they should retrain right after implementation?
The validity is recognized pa rin. Until matapos yung validity, then mag-kick in yung bago.
I see. Thank you for that, Doc. Ito, Doc, medyo complicated question. The participant mentioned na natapos niya na daw po, Doc, yung 2 days na training niya. But because of this new DO, they are now required to complete a 4-day standard first aid training. Will that entail an additional two more days or retraining ng another 4 days? Ano po kaya, Doc, ang ma-advise natin?
Alam mo, may sagot dito ang BWC. Dito call a friend tayo dito ha. Because interpretation na of the DO ito. Kasi it has something to do with compliance. So already it would matter when inspection is being done, diba? They would look at it. So I see Engineer Casey here.
Okay, more than welcome po to hear inputs from our BWC experts. Engineer Casey, may we ask po for your inputs regarding the question? Dr. Taylor, if we can ask for your assistance.
Unmute,
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, the short answer there is, it is still recognized naman by DOLE. No? That's the short answer. But they have to prepare already in transitioning to the appropriate first aid training course.
I see. Thank you.
Casey is around. At dito na si Casey.
Okay, thank you. And also in the chat, let's also recognize Dr. Marco Valeros from BWC as well. Dr. Taylor, if we can ask for your assistance also to unmute Dr. Valeros.
Engineer Casey and Dr. Leros may actually unmute and turn on their cameras. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Okay, sir, good evening. Okay.
Ayan, that's Dr. Valero.
I concur with the answer of Doc Gia. Although 2 years lang yung yung occupational first aid yung previous course na kinuha niya, pero now with the DO, ang pa rin niya dapat sa 4 days no yung standard. Recognize pa rin yon until mag-expire yung yung 2 years, and then ang advice natin sa susunod na na course na kukunin niya yung standard first aid na, which is 4 days. Okay, as in yung tulad po ng many issuances, the application kasi is prospective. So hindi natin siya pwedeng i-retro. Kaya po yun po yung rationale why we allow po yung mga ganoong instances na pero of course after nung siya mag-expire na yon, magkukuha siya ng ng first aid training course, yung 4 days na ang dapat kunin po. Thank you po.
I see. Thank you very much, Dr. Valero and Doc Bia, for that very clear answer. The next question also, maybe if I can direct to BWC as well, because this will be regarding implementation. There is one report from our participant that one regional office daw of DOLE is not actually accepting the first aid training coming from TVETs. So how can we address this po kaya, Dr. Valero, if you will? Or anyone po from BWC or even Doc Bia?
Hello po, sir. Again, good evening. They could write us na lang siguro nagkaroon lang ng miscommunication as kasi what is written sa previous labor advisory natin labor advisory number 10 series of 2019, yung mga TVET prior sa implementation ng 235, recognized po dapat sila. So siguro lang po magkaroon lang ng miscommunication. So ayusin po natin yan, mag-write na lang po silang letter po sa amin.
I see. Understandable po. Thank you po, Doc. Doc Bia, there's another question here naman about the validity naman of first aid training from abroad. So naman daw, accredited naman daw abroad yung kanilang training center. Will this be acceptable also pertaining to this recent DO?
No, we cannot kasi it's very difficult. Accredited sila abroad.
Yes po. Yes po.
Yung organization is accredited to wala naman tayong ganong recognition kapag accredited abroad. So they have to undergo the procedure for our local system. So they should ang simple lang naman ito. Kailangan natin makilala kung sino yung nagko-conduct. At kung makilala natin sila, mamonitor natin sila, pati yung mga participants na. Yun ang pinakamaikling sagot doon. Kasi kung hindi natin sila kilala at hindi papasok sa sistema, mahihirapan tayong magsuri kung tama yung nag-undergo sila ng training. Hindi namin, kasi outside of our purview hindi namin sila maaabot kung hindi namin sila makikilala. Yun ang pinakasimple. Pasok sa sistema dahil dito ginagawa sa Pilipinas. Salamat.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Doc, another siguro practice question, no? Kasi po sa ibang companies, we know from the DO po, no, na OSH standards po natin that aside from doctors and nurses, talagang iba talaga yung item ng first aider. No, kaya lang there are some companies daw po yung nurse nila will be designated as the first aider as well. Will that be acceptable practice po ba?
Sagutin ko na, no, kasi nag-opinion na ang Bureau of Working Condition rito kung kayo ay mapanuri. Sinagot na nila to noong bago pa lamang ini-roll out ang 198 na kung saan pa pwede ito. Pero ang sinasabi nila, dapat may training sa first aid. So, maaari siya.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Doc. Doc, ito, mga 3 or 4 pong participants ang nagtanong about hybrid work mode. So, are they still parang needed po to have these trainings? And follow up to that question, paano po kaya yung bilang ng number of workers kung hybrid? Example, 51 lahat ng employees, pero 10 doon ay work from home.
Hybrid ng ano? Ayan, Bureau of Working Condition, pakisagot. Kasi ang importante yung present sa premises, di ba? At any given time. And of course, yung usual na number dapat ang tinitingnan natin. I'd like to ask because this is an interpretation of the Department of Labor's provision on DO 198, diba? On first aider requirements.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you po, Doc Bia. Okay. Ano po, tama po yung sinabi ni Doc Bia po. Of course, yung magiging ano po natin, basis would be those workers who are reporting on site, no? Kasi ano yan ang first aid, no? Unlike sa doctors, sa nurses, na ang bilang natin is yung totality, which means yung reporting on site at saka yung those who are working from home, kasi pwede naman tayong mag teleconsult, telemedicine. Pero pagdating po dito sa sa first aider, yung those who are reporting on site lang ang magiging basis natin. And reminder lang po, no, na katulad po nung sa standards, dapat po kung per shift yan, dapat per shift meron first aider na na itatalaga based doon sa number of workers who are reporting on site.
I see. Thank you very much, Doc. No, that is very, very clear. No, so talagang we will depend on the workers reporting on site. So the basis, yung table po natin kanina na present ni Doc Bia, no, and the number of first aider and the required training will be based on those reporting on site. So thank you very much po for that. Doc, with regards naman po sa company implementation, do you have any comments po with regards to possibility of a full virtual first aid training in consideration of the pandemic?
Alam niyo naman, pagka mag-first aid, hindi lang naman knowledge yan, di ba? Skills. Kapag skills, ibig sabihin, pinapaulit sa'yo yung binibigay na demonstration. So return demo is very, very important. So even in the manual of procedure, we recognize that there are certain aspects of the training that can be conducted virtually. And this would be the didactic portion, yung mga theoretical portion. Pero dito, napakaklarong sinasabi namin na merong oras dapat na tinatalaga na kung saan yung return demo o yung skills demonstration ng participant, dapat ito ay in-person at saka yung knowledge and skills assessment dapat in-person. So kung pupunta tayo sa manual of procedures, dito sinasabi kung ilang oras yung sinasabi na bawat type of training. So naka-detalye.
I see.
So tinatanggap ang hybrid virtual, pero you cannot really avoid the in-person because it's very difficult for you to check the skills. Wala ka naman CPR manikin sa bahay, di ba? So paano ka magde-demonstrate ng resuscitation? So napakasimpleng scenario yun. Tama.
Thank you, Doc. Very clear ang answer po talaga doon. Another, Doc, we noted na there are multiple days of training. Acceptable din po ba? I think this will a question coming from a potential provider. Acceptable po ba staggered conduct of training? Like for example, every 2 days, may gap kunyari na 1 day, hindi siya 4 days na tuloy-tuloy. Will this be an acceptable rollout as well?
Yeah, that is acceptable, but the whole training course should be completed within a month. So that is also in the manual of procedures. We have put down already, and this is very, very specific, that the training should be completed within a month. Both particularly both face-to-face, kasi face-to-face usually naman, even if it's staggered, it's not going to be too long. Remember, it's just 8 hours for the emergency and 2 days for the occupational. But then again, when you're talking about the virtual platform, siguro doon medyo mas mahaba. Tapusin muna natin yung yung lecture slide, tapos makita-kita tayo para sa in-person. Okay yon, pinapahintulutan yon, pero matapos ka ng isang buwan. Dapat. Salamat.
Thank you. Very clear po yung ating length, no? Dapat po ay within a month matapos po natin. Dok, ito sobrang daming nagtanong po, no? I think marami pong nag-train po dito from the Philippine Heart Center. So, and ever since, parang marami po talagang yun ang kanilang sinasubmit na certification. And with this new DO, will this basically PHC na certification still, although wala po nakasulat po, no? But they can fall under the others?
Hindi recognized ang Philippine Heart Association kasi
Philippine
ang
Heart Center
Philippine Heart Center hindi sila kasama ron. Unless na under the DOH sila, no? Kasi ang alam namin yung pinapahintulutan ng DOH mga iba't ibang mga ahensya, no, ay sa life support lamang, hindi sa first aid. So ito napakaklaro ng pag-uusap namin with DOH. Kasi noon pinag-usapan rin namin, kayo ba ay nag-accredit? Kasi mga gobyerno rin na nagbibigay nitong training na ito. Kasi gusto namin magkaroon ng pagkilala rin kung saan kami magkakaroon ng interface. Because, you know, it could have been an opportunity for a reciprocity or recognition already. That would be, the process of accreditation is going to be easier. But then again, it's not part of the system unless, again, talagang first aid at saka BLS. Pero as far as I know, BLS lang. Salamat.
I see, Doc. Although, follow-up question, Doc, pwede naman po sila mag-apply as a provider, hospitals and even private organizations.
Oo. For as long as, again, they are able to comply with the requirements of the Department Order for accreditation. Why not? They have the facilities anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. So another, Doc, this one with regards po sa curriculum naman po, no? So my question po regarding the rationale about the rationale of putting into one bucket the low, medium, and high risk levels if the company will have 51 or more. Can we expound daw po about the reasoning behind putting them into one bucket?
In a sense, no, if you look at how this was classified, it follows or aligns with the 198 provision. So yun ang taking into consideration resources available. Remember, sa pagpasa ng 11058 at saka yung paggawa ng 198, merong ganong recognition ng iba't ibang kakayahan. So yun yung sinasabayan natin doon sa paggawa nitong first aid training.
I see. And also, Doc, may we get your response also? May isa ring question or comment that some topics daw po in the curriculum are actually not applicable to all types of industries, I guess.
First aid is not applicable to any type. Isn't that fundamental and minimum? Is
Yes,
BLS not important to everybody? I guess you have to go and see and dig deeper, to really look at appropriateness of many of the portions or modules of the curriculum. Sino yung nagtanong kaya? I'd like to understand what the participant is referring to as not important, because hindi naman unique ang workplace in terms of emergencies. May tao, may maaaring magkasakit, at kung sinasabi ninyo na hindi mangyayari ito sa loob ng pagawaan, sadly, hindi natin yung masasabi. Kaya kung ano yung pinapatupad minsan sa general population, yun rin ang ating pinapatupad. At syempre, may pagkilala rin ng importante sa loob ng pagawa. Salamat.
I'm sure, Doc, the poster of the question heard you loud and clear. And Doc, what about the third party naman po na health providers? Maybe their company hired a third party doctor or nurse, for example, or even yung talagang health team po nila. Will the actual employer kailangan sila po ba magpa-train ng mga third party na mga health providers po nila?
Okay, ano yan, call a friend ako ha. Interpretation
Sure.
yan ng 198 natin. So,
Okay.
Sir Mark.
Yes po.
Ayan.
Okay, good evening po. Of course, ano po, no? Kahit po third party, okay, obligation pa rin po ng employer na i-train po sila. But of course, they could isama po sa contract yung return of service agreement kasi I understand nagiging problem din after matrain umaalis agad, no? So parang yung cost ng training hindi na re-recover ni employer, so basta reasonable po, no, yung return of service nila, no? Wag naman na itatali mo siya ng 5 years isang training lang. So nasa po yan, sa agreement po nila yung return of service obligation ng in-outsource nila, no, na OH personnel po, no. Iklaro ko lang po, no, pagka sa first aider po, no, dapat po siya as much as possible, no, regular employee po ang natin. Pero pagdating po sa nurses, sa dentists, sa doctors, meron pong jurisprudence na inaalaw na talaga po, no, yung outsourcing. That's all po, sir.
Thank you po, Dr. Valero. So actually, follow up to that question, marami rin po nagtatanong. You mentioned na dapat regular employee po ang ating first aider. So pwede rin po ba kaya yung kanilang security guards, for example, may dual function, security guard na first aider pa, will that be acceptable? And similar position na talagang hindi naman po part technically, no, ng ating health team, but will be designated as first aider as well. Okay lang po ba yun, sir?
Provided regular employee siya, pwede naman po, no? Tapos nag-training siya sa po, no, sa FATPRO or yung mga recognized na government agencies po ni DOLE, no, why not? However, no, i-take into consideration din natin yung work demand po nila sa sa workplace, po, kung masyado po silang mako-compromise po, halimbawa, no, kung security guard siya at po, no, nasa bangko, ayan, may atenan, of course, may iwan yung maapektuhan po yung security. So tingnan din po yan ng workplace. Otherwise, naman po, pwede naman po yon. Again, as much as possible, regular employee o worker po yung yung security guard nila, pwede naman po.
I see. Thank you very much, Doc. Actually, that answered many of the questions. So marami nagtatanong kung pwede ba yung outsource na paramedic or even meron silang other employees, no, that are trained sa first aid. So basically, basta trained sa mga accredited na providers under this DO, no, can function as the first aider. So kahit meron pong training before, no, as I understand it, we really need to complete the training with the accredited providers lamang, no? Unless meron na pong before training and then valid pa rin, that can kumbaga still be valid until the end of that validity. Doc Bia or Doc Valeros, I don't know kung if anyone of you would like to answer. Meron po bang penalty if ever na mapatunayan na hindi po nag-assign na first aider in a certain company, or even lalo na po kapag off-site yung work, let's say construction, tapos walang first aider na deploy, what will be the repercussions po kaya if napatunayan ganun?
If I may po.
Go ahead po, Dr. Valeros.
Okay. So ganito po 'yan, as per DO 198, non-compliance would result to penalties, no. However, no, meron tayong tinatawag na willful failure, element of willful failure para ma-consummate po yung pag-penalize. No? Yung penalties po natin, it comes with the form of admin fines. Pag sinabi natin willful failure, it means na deliberate, no? Yung yung hindi nila pag comply sa mga requirements. So ano po ibig natin sabihin, upon inspection, makita po natin na may findings sila, may violation, and then they will be given 90 days para mag-comply. And kasi yun yung sinasabi po sa DO 198, no? Pagka hindi sila nag-comply within 90 days, doon po papasok yung penalty. Ngayon, meron pong per day, no? So, iwasan po nating mag-accumulate yung multa, no, sa computation. Pero yung binigay mo example po kasi, Doc, construction, at alam po naman natin sa construction, inherently hazardous yung work dyan, high risk siya sa mga accidents. So yung 90 days, it may not apply, no, sa construction kasi parang time bomb yan, pagka may na-disgrasya, So the DOLE regional office would prescribe, I'm sure, no, a shorter period para makapag-comply po sila dapat pagdating sa first aider. Ordinarily, sa ibang workplace naman, na sabihin nating low risk, hindi naman siya siguro magiging problem. So, tingnan po natin sana, no, na magawa ng paraan na makapag-comply agad. Yung 90 days, mahabang pero sabi ko nga, within, kung makapag-comply kaagad, we welcome na mas maikli yung period na makapag-comply po sila. Again, may may penalties for deficiencies or non-compliance, pero po yung element of willful failure din yung tinitingnan. Hindi po automatic na magmumulta po si DOLE. So establishments will be given ample time para makapag-comply po. That's all po Doc, and of course kung meron pong dagdag po si Doc Dia, welcome po.
Okay na ako, Mark. Maraming salamat.
Thank you po. And also, Doc, since marami po tayong safety officers po, no, in our meeting po for today, nagtatanong po sila, once and for all po, pag gusto po nilang malaman, pwede rin bang maging first aider and safety officer at the same time of one company?
Okay, may
Okay.
po, no, sa section 14 ng DO 198. May sinasabi po doon na kapag pagka micro to small, low to medium risk, no, it may be allowed. Kasi we take into consideration din yung number ng workers at of course yung risk level. Pero sa mga sa mga high risk at of course much more sa mga large establishments, we don't allow such practice kasi you cannot serve two masters at the same time. Bigyan kita example, Doc, no? Again, maganda example kasi yung construction. So a safety, you are wearing two hats, no? Assuming safety officer / safety officer ka. So nag-ocular ka, nasa 10th floor nang ini-inspect mo, and then magkaroon ng emergency case, dinala sa clinic, nasa baba. How could you attend sa emergency case na mabilis kung nasa 10th floor ka at you are doing your thing as safety officer? So yun po, may may certain limitations, no? It may be allowed depending on yung nature ng ng business, number of workers, at of course yung risk level ng workplace. Yun po yung pinakamaikling sagot po doon. Please check po yung section 14 ng DO 198.
Okay. Doc Bia, anything to add po?
Good evening. Doc Bia, mag-add din po ako, sana.
Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Dr. Felix po. I-point out din po natin, aside din po sa sinabi po ni Doc Mark, we should also emphasize na kapag kinoncentrate niyo po sa iisang tao ang lahat po ng mga training, safety officer and first aider, imagine what would happen pag nag-resign po ang inyo pong ang safety officer. Tangay niya po ang dalawang posisyon that is required by the DO 198. Thank you.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Felix, for that. No? So malinaw po ang ating answer po talaga, no, na may certain conditions lang, no, that will be allowed, no, and we really need to think, no, about the risk and hazards talaga na i-expose natin ang ating mga empleyado before actually deciding, no, on this matter. So I think we answered the questions already. So at this point po, maybe if we can ask for a take-home message, not only from Doc Pia, maybe we can ask from our experts also from the BWC. Maybe we can start with Dr. Valeros.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Good evening po sa mga participants. Ayan. So, on behalf of mga boss po namin sa DOLE, I would like to thank po, no, yung organizers for organizing this webinar, kasi this is an opportunity for us na maibaba po, no, maikascade po yung Department Order sa maraming mga individuals, So I know na ito po magkakaroon to ng multiplying effect, no, para sa mga workers po natin, para ma-ensure po yung safety and health po nila. And of course, aside from yung MOP na mada-download nyo po, no, we are currently working din po sa sa yung FAQs, no. Prior to this webinar, meron na kaming naipon na 13 coming from yung mga inquiries namin from telephone at of course yung sa email, no. So we welcome, ang gaganda po ng tanong dito po, no, sa webinar na to, and we would add this, no, sa FAQs. So pakiabangan nyo na lang po sa ating pong website, website ng OSHC tsaka ng BWC. And of course, sa mga sa mga gusto pa pong malinawan, kung meron pong mga gray areas pa po sa DO or anything, no, about safety and health, please feel free na mag-query po sa amin. Please email na lang po sa amin, no, sa BWC. That's all po, Doc, and thank you po sa mga participants po natin dito sa sa webinar. Good evening po.
Thank you very much, Doc Mark, no, and thank you very much for opening the opportunity sa ating participants. Marami pang mga questions, in fact, no, na hindi na po natin nasagot because of the interest of time, but I'm sure po, no, they will be contacting your office. Doc Felix, if we can ask for a take-home message as well.
Okay na po yun. Nagsalta na yung boss ko. Thank you.
Thank you po. And of course, Doc Dia.
This is essentially a collaborative effort from the Department of Labor. No, several organizations under the Department of Labor have worked on developing this department order that took into consideration lessons from accreditation of the safety training organizations. As I have mentioned, no, we have institutionalized a lot of those procedures already based on our experience para wala ng ambiguity. And of course, dahil nga ito'y bagong pag-roll out, we truly appreciated all the questions because again, this will form part of the clarificatory notes that both agencies are working on, and that will be again uploaded to our website. Pero sana yun nga, yung pagtingin natin sa kung paano tayo susunod, tingnan natin maigi yung, lalong-lalo na sa mga interesadong parties. And again, no, this is something I hope that they would ponder over to look at the requirements first. Tingnan ninyo yung requirements kasi may nakalista naman doon kapag po gusto na ninyong ma-accredit. Tingnan po natin kung paano to gagamitin at kung gagawin pala base do sa MOP. At kung meron man kayong clarification, katulad na sinabi kanina ni Mark, na pwedeng sumulat po sa aming parehong ahensya. Pero the accreditation, okay, I think this is where we should clarify already, no? The interpretation of the implementation in terms of compliances, of course, we defer to the policy-making body of the Department of Labor, which is the Bureau of Working Conditions, but issues on accreditation, that is with the Occupational Safety and Health Center. That's why during the question and answer portion, we have we really were answering as far as we can in terms of our functions as well. And we have taken it upon ourselves, no, in the Occupational Safety and Health Center. Maraming salamat sa BWC na kami yung magiging accrediting body. Salamat ba yun? Hindi ko alam kung salamat yun. Pero ganun na nga yun. So maraming salamat po at sana sa mga tanong, pwede pa rin naman ninyo kaming sulatan po sa inyo. So this again is the first time that we are rolling out the department order to the private sector. Thank you for the invitation, and I hope again, with this, the information also will be disseminated as well through other platforms, because I suppose you will be uploading the video also for others to watch later. So maraming salamat, Jason, for moderating this, and to the officers again of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine. Thank you for the invitation to the Department of Labor. Maraming salamat.
Thank you po, Doc Bia, no? And thank you for clarifying the roles, no? And again, just to reiterate to our participants, if ang question po ninyo is about accreditation, you can direct your questions to the OH Center. But if your questions will be about the implementation and interpretation of the DO, please direct your questions to the Bureau of Working Conditions. Thank you once again po, dear doctors. And Dr. Villanueva, if we can ask you to stay po for the presentation of the certificate. The certificate reads, the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, Quezon City Chapter, presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Maria Beatriz G. Villanueva, MD, MOH, PhD, FPCOM, for serving as resource speaker of the Chapter's 40th Kapihang OH, Orientation on DOLE Department Order 235-22. Signed, Dr. Angelo Taylor, Chapter Secretary. Signed, Dr. Catherine Artais Carriaga, Chapter President. Thank you once again, Doc Bia.
Thank you for this certificate, and I share this with my family from BWC. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Ang dami nating participants ngayong gabi.
Yes,
no?
Doc Jason. Dami.
More than 500. So thank you very much for all your support. And of course, thank you once again sa ating distinguished guests and our friends from BWC. At this point, we would like to thank our PCOM QCC Virtual Kapihang team. Pinangungunahan po ng aming technical head, our very own PCOM QC Chapter Secretary, Dr. Jose Angelo Taylor. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Also, I would like to thank the entire PCOM QCC CME team. Maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong lahat. To formally end tonight's educational activity, ladies and gentlemen, our Chapter Vice President, Dr. Jeremias M. Florante.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cabigon. Department Order number 235, Series of 2022, for the rules on certification of first aiders and accreditation of first aid training providers issued by the Department of Labor and Employment has been formulated and designed to aid establishments, both in private and in the government, in preventing and reducing work-related injuries, illnesses, and even death. We hope that this Kapihang clarified certain questions on the certification process of first aiders and the accreditation proceedings of its training providers. As such, we humbly thank Dr. Maria Beatriz Villanueva of the Occupational Safety and Health Center for sharing her knowledge on the subject matter. Of course, this virtual event will not be successful without the presence of our friends and partners in occupational safety and health advocacy. Hence, it is right to acknowledge them, starting from our partners in the Occupational Safety and Health Center, Bureau of Working Conditions, our fellow occupational safety and health consultants and practitioners, fellow occupational medicine specialists, fellow occupational health physicians, occupational health nurses, safety officers, human resource personnel, among others. Thank you very much for your continued patronage. We would like to thank also the national officers and board of directors of the Philippine College of Occupational Medicine, headed by Dr. Ana Sofia Victoria Fajardo, the past national and chapter presidents, and the general membership of the college for the support. Tonight is the premiere night of the 39th Kapihang OH on the World Day for Safety and Health at Work 2022 commemoration, and the 4th Virtualang QCC on our official YouTube channel. If you have missed the discussions of the strategies on how individuals and organizations can act together to build a positive safety and health culture, please do watch, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This presentation too will be uploaded in our official YouTube channel. To be updated on our new videos, do not forget to click the notification button. You may also want to follow and like our other social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have comments or suggestions for our next Kapihang topics, please send us an email at pcomquezoncitychapter@gmail.com. Again, thank you everyone. Always remember that in Quezon City chapter, we value your safety and health. Hashtag PCOM QCC cares. Ingat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Florante. Muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa pagdalo sa ating 40th Kapihang OH. That's 40, very rich, valuable, timely, and most importantly, free learning sa lahat. Kaya kung nakatulong po sa inyo ang aming mga kapihang sessions, and you want more, ang inihiling lang po namin is for everyone to subscribe to our official YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, follow our Twitter and Instagram accounts. All our past sessions are uploaded in our YouTube channels. In fact, marami pong questions that were actually answered by Doc Bia during the presentation. Pwede nyo pong balikan doon po sa aming YouTube channel. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And free po lahat ng request na yan. Check out our channels. Just search PCOM QC in all those media platforms. And your support will move our chapter to even more projects that will benefit everyone. And also, please support our June 22 activity. If you want to understand myofascial pain syndrome and gastroesophageal reflux disease. June 22 po yan. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo. Sa susunod na 41st Kapihang OH, ako po si Dr. Jason Cabigon na parating nagpapaalala na sa Quezon City chapter ang inyong kaligtasan at kalusugan ay mahalaga. Hashtag PCOM QCC Care. Good night everyone and stay safe and healthy.